Hi my lovelies, welcome to the channel. So today we have got my September wrap up and I have had a very good month. Lately it feels like I haven't really been reading as much as I usually do, at least for the last few months. And so this month I finally got back into the flow of things. I found a series that I'm really falling in love with. I found a really good book that I absolutely adored. And so I've got quite a few books that I really loved that I cannot wait to talk to you about. So let's just get right into it. Let's start off with some stats. Me personally, I am a sucker for stats. I love them. So I like to give them, just in case you guys do too. So I read 10 books in September. I read 4 different genres. I probably read more, but I only really track 4. So I read 10 romance books. I read 5 fantasy books. I read 5 dark romances. And I read 5 LGBTQ books. My average rating was 4, which I feel like is pretty good. My longest book of the month was 575 pages. My shortest book was 168 pages. I read 5 new to me authors. I had 2 DNFs and I didn't reread anything this month. So all in all, I feel like stats-wise, it was a pretty good month. My average rating was 4, which it was last month as well. And so it seems like lately I've just been reading a lot of really good stuff. And so I'm super happy with how this month went. And like I said, I also started a series that I'm really falling in love with. So let's get right into it, shall we? So the first book that I read this year was Red Card by Maren Moore. And this one, I talked about this in my Sports Romance Rex video. And this one, I rated a 4-star. I really liked this book. So let's talk about it, shall we? So this one follows Killian. He got into some trouble at his old school. I think he is from England. He's from somewhere in the United Kingdom. And he got into some trouble at his old school and it made it so that he got kicked off of his rugby team. It's his entire life, and so not being able to play it, it's devastating to him. But his coach calls in a favor and gets him sent to a school in the States, where he immediately gets off on a horrible foot with his team. He is there just to play rugby and he doesn't care about making friends, and it is very clear to the other players on the team. And also he is very good at rugby, and so a lot of the guys on this team see him as just kind of an outsider who has come in, taken a spot from somebody that they know and love, and is also now not making any move to get close with them or to befriend them in any kind of way. Enter Rory. She is the coach's daughter and she is really close with every single guy on the team. Rory is single, and because she is so close with the team, because she is so involved in the rugby world, she almost immediately friend zones herself whenever she's talking to guys. She thinks, oh, I'm so passionate about rugby, let me talk to them about this. And then the guys just see her as one of the guys, or they don't take her seriously in the dating field. So she sees Killian, she sees he's an attractive man, and he has also not immediately friend-zoned her. She asks him, she's like, hey, you know, we've just met, I know, but I am really needing some dating advice and practice. And so I was wondering if you would be willing to help me, if you could teach me, if you could help me get more comfortable around men, kind of just tell me what I'm doing wrong. And he's like, yeah, no, not happening, sorry about that. Then he almost gets kicked off the team. And he remembers Rory is very close with everybody on this team. She has just asked something of me, so maybe I can ask something of her as well. So they make it a little deal. He'll kind of teach her and she'll help him get in the good graces of everybody on the team. And obviously, lines start to blur. Things start to feel a little bit less fake. And it was really good. I don't think it's going to be a book that stands out to me. It's not revolutionary in the sports romance front, like it's just kind of another book. It was done really well. I liked the chemistry that they have. I loved when they were friends. I felt like Rory's character, she was so fun and she was so herself, and I really enjoyed that at the beginning of the book. And I also just loved her friendship dynamics with everybody. I think that was definitely the standout aspect of this book for me, is just her interactions with everybody else. And then also I almost liked them more when they were friends than I did when they became romantic. They were just so playful together and they were so fun. And then when they finally did get together, that was one thing I didn't really love about this book, is that I noticed a shift almost when they got together and they almost became less playful, and she interacted with her dad a little bit less, at least on page, same with her friends. And so I did miss that aspect of the book once they got together. But again, like I said, it was a really good book and I will definitely recommend it. Like if you are wanting a sports romance that has a really solid friendship dynamic, I would definitely recommend this. Granted, there's only one book out currently, but it seems like more are being written. So again, I would highly recommend this one. It was really, really good. The next one. This was a standout book for me this month. This is The Witch Slayer by Opal Rain. This was phenomenal. This was in a reading vlog, so I won't talk too much about my thoughts, but I'll still give you thoughts. But I want to encourage you to watch the reading vlog, so I don't want to give too much. But this one, I rated a 4.5. I loved this one. This one was so good. Opal Rain delivered. She always does. Opal Rain wrote the Duskwalker Ride series, one of my favorite series of all time in the entire world. And so when I saw this series, and it was something that was on my TBR for a while, and I just never really gotten around to it. And then I fell into a slump. I thought, what better opportunity to read an Opal Rain book than when I'm trying to get out of a slump? And it worked. Let me tell you, it worked. So let's talk about the plot, shall we? This one follows Amalia. She is what is known as a white witch in this world. All of the witches where she is from, they're all really evil. They all use blood magic. They are just very selfish and also very cruel, but she's not like that. She's very kind, she's very warm, and she uses her powers mainly just to heal people, heal animals. She never really does any blood magic because she doesn't want to be corrupted. Enter Rurik. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm just going to call him the dragon, okay? So enter the dragon, right? He is injured very badly. He shifts into this lizard, which is basically just like a smaller form of who he is, and he is found by Amalia. And she sees that he's very wounded, and so she takes him in, and the dragon is known amongst the other dragons as the Witch Slayer because he hates all witches for very good reason. So it's his goal in life to kill all witches. So when he sees Amalia, he's initially like, as soon as this bitch heals me, she's dead. I'm coming for her. Like, you're not escaping me. I know where you live now, basically. But he starts noticing that she is healing other people and she's healing things, and she's just kind to him. She never tries to study him, even though she has no idea what he is. She's just never cruel to him. She's always kind. She slowly starts to grow on him a little bit. And then when he is finally released, she is in danger and he has to make a decision. Am I going to save this witch, this person that I am supposed to kill, that I have made my life's mission to kill, or am I going to save her? And he saves her, and then he keeps her. And it was so good. This was so fun. Opal Rain, let me tell you, she knows what she's doing when it comes to monster romance. The MMCs are out of this damn world. He was so grumpy, but also so, like, obsessed with her reluctantly, and she was so unbelievably kind, and she was just so warm. And the best part of this book, honestly, was both of them had a lot of trauma and just a lot of garbage that's happened to them and people around them, and they finally found something good. Especially Amalia. I loved her so much. She just had so much light within her. She was so kind. And seeing her find this love with the dragon, it was so wonderful. This was just so good. It was the perfect balance between light and fun and like bantery tension and deeper, more wholesome and just like emotional moments, and it was so good. I could not recommend this book more. It was absolutely incredible. I had a really wonderful time with it. The next one is I Married a Birdman by Regina Abel. This is book 3 in the Prime Mating Agency series, I want to say. And I rated this one a 3.25 stars. So let's talk about the plot and then I'll get into my thoughts. So this whole series centers around this Prime Mating Agency. People enter it and then you're kind of matched with your soulmate. There's this girl, Luana. Her colony is being attacked relentlessly. She cannot catch a break. They're a very like caveman-y society, and they like that. They don't really want to develop. They got away from all of the technological stuff, so they want to stay in the dark ages a little bit, but they're getting ruthlessly attacked. And so she goes to her neighbors, who are the Birdmen. They're called something else, but I'm just going to call them that for the sake of it. You can see the cover, it's a Birdman. And so she goes to them and she is like, look, we really need your help. You're a lot more advanced than us. Is there anything that we can do to have you help us? And one of the men on the council there, named Dacus, he sees her and immediately he's like, this is my soulmate. My soul is calling to yours. He talks to the council. He's like, hey, she's my mate. I want to save her. I want to marry her. and they kind of enter an arranged marriage. I don't really remember how it benefits them. Oh no, they go through the prime mating agency, and I think that both sides get a bunch of technology from the agency for having a successful mating and marriage. They get married. It moves very quickly, I'll say that. But this one was really cute. From a critical standpoint, there was nothing wrong with this book. The world was fleshed out. I liked both the characters. There was nothing bad about this book. I just didn't really care. It didn't hook me, and I will say the beginning, I was invested. I really liked Dacus all the way through. I liked both of them, but I think he was more of the standout for me. I liked them the entire way through, but I think midway through, around there, maybe even a bit earlier, I just kind of disconnected, and I didn't care at all. And so, like I said, this wasn't a bad book. I actually did enjoy this. It just didn't get me invested, and I didn't really care about the couple. Also, because he initially knows that she is his soulmate, sometimes that dynamic does feel a little bit insta-lovey because he immediately is so locked in on her and sees her as this wonderful, perfect creature that it does come across a little bit insta-lovey, and so I think that was the case. The way that they developed didn't feel super authentic and natural, but yeah, it was a good book. I would recommend it, and this whole series. I really, really liked the first book, but again, this was just kind of like a midway book. It's nothing super special, but I also didn't have any complaints about it, so who knows, maybe if you pick it up, you'll love it even more. The next book. This is the standout book. This is my favorite book of the month. This book was everything, and I am so angry about it because I picked this book up. I looked at the series on Goodreads. I saw that the next book, the audiobook, released October 7th, so I was like, okay, let me pick up The Poisoner by Ivy Ophelia, because the next book comes out super soon. The next book doesn't come out in October. It actually comes out in April, so I'm miserable because I loved this book. I rated it a 4.75. It was incredible. It was incredible. Let me talk about it. This one follows Alina. By day, she's a botanist. By night, she's a poisoner. So what she does is she works very closely with people who work in brothels and things like that. And she works with them if they have somebody going in who's abusive, or somebody who just isn't very kind, or somebody who they know is a really bad person that the police are going to do nothing about. She slips them a little bit of poison. She is basically just trying to rid the world of scum. So enter Silas. She sees him one night at a party, and he is draining the blood from somebody's neck. And so she is like, he's killing this person. So she goes away. She starts stalking him, and he also starts stalking her. He's like, okay, let me play cat and mouse a little bit. Let me have a little fun here. They both kind of acquire each other as a target, and it goes from there. They stalk each other. They both try to kill each other. And eventually, Silas starts to want to kill her less, and he wants to keep her more. This book was absolutely incredible. It was so fun. It shouldn't have been. There is no reason why interactions where she is hitting him in the face with a frying pan and he's punching her in the face, there is no reason why those interactions should be funny, but they somehow were. This was just everything. Their back and forth, their banter, how obsessed he was. There was a scene where she had him on his knees for her, begging for her. He's also a vampire. I have said repeatedly, I'm in my vampire era right now when it comes to books, okay? And this was so incredible. It delivered like you would not believe. It was just so good. The way that their dynamic shifted from them both trying to kill each other, like violently. Like she poisons him at one point, and he's like, oh my god, she tried to kill me. Just obsessed with her, and then it turns into like reluctant friends and allies, and then just something so deep and so good. Oh, I gotta stop talking about it. This was just incredible, but I gotta stop, otherwise I will be here for days talking about this damn book. I loved it. Didn't have a single complaint. This was perfect. The only complaint that I have is that I have to wait until April for the next damn book in this series. I was just so angry and so like almost hollow when this book ended because I couldn't pick up the next one. I felt empty, I felt lifeless and hopeless and devastated. I felt so many negative emotions, but the biggest emotion I felt overall was just, holy crap, this was incredible. I loved it so much. I don't entirely know why I didn't rate it 5 stars. I'm reading my review now to figure out why I didn't. And it seems like I said I didn't feel as much as I think I should have. So there we go. There were a few scenes where I think I was meant to feel a lot more than I did. And so I think that's why I didn't rate it 5 stars, is because my experience was incredible reading this, but I did notice that there were moments where I didn't really feel anything, where I definitely should have. Again, like I said, Poisoner, incredible. If you are okay with a cliffhanger, pick up this book yesterday. It's so good. It was easily my best book of the month. Honestly, one of my best books of the year. This was incredible. I would recommend this to everybody. Best book of the month by a mile. Please check it out. Next one is On Wings of Blood by Briar Boleyn. I rated this one 4.25. I had a really good time with it. Let's talk about it. This one follows Medra, and she is from another world. She fights a war in her world, and then she wakes up after fighting the war, and she's somewhere else. She has no idea how she got there. She just wakes up in this burned down building, and she's the only survivor. She's laying in a pile of dead bodies. She's discovered by, I want to say they're called high bloods. They're vampires, basically. But I think they're called high bloods. So she's discovered by these vampires, and they smell something weird in her blood. They're like, you don't smell like us. And that's because in her world, she's half fae, half human. But what they smell on her is that she is a dragon rider, the last of their kind. And there are no dragons left, but there have been no dragon riders for even longer. So they're wondering, who is this girl? How did she just appear out of nowhere with dragon rider blood? Like, where did she come from? So they take her back to the council, and the one guy in the council is like, okay, we're gonna keep you. You have no say in the matter. We're just going to bond you to one of our people, Blake, who is the guy that rescued her and murdered somebody right in front of her. She is now bound to him by blood forever, and she is kind of forced to join like a throuple with him and his already intended. She's sent to their school. I can't remember what it's called. I'll put the title here. We get to see her dynamic with Blake. We get to see her dynamic with some of the other humans, with some of the vampires, and just how much she's really struggling at this other school. And then also just her trying to figure out, like, how did I end up here? Anything about the dragons, really. And then just kind of how to survive Blake. And, okay, here's the thing. I had a really, really good time with this. Granted, it didn't really make me feel anything, so it was rated a little bit lower. And in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's going to be a book that really stays with me. But in the moment, and right now, I remember I had a really good time with this. But will I remember it 2 months from now? Probably not. You know what I mean? I will say, I loved the relationship between her and Blake. But oh my god, the miscommunication drove me up the wall. There were so many moments where Blake was being really, really sweet behind the scenes, and Medra was just like, no, you're an asshole. You're doing all of these horrible, horrible things that the vampires are doing. Meanwhile, he's actually there protecting her from those things and taking the blame for a lot of things that she is doing. She is very like, screw the system, I'm gonna like rebel. Meanwhile, she's considered human. I think she's considered Blightborn, I want to say, which basically means that she's like scum on your shoe. But she's fighting, and that causes a lot of problems for Blake. But Medra doesn't know any of this because he always takes the fall for her. She still blames him for everything. Drove me nuts. But I really liked her dynamic with him when they were actually communicating, and when she saw that he wasn't this beast that she was portraying him as. I also really liked her dynamic with her friends that she was making, and also her dynamic with the other vampires in his group, particularly Theo, and then there was another girl. I don't remember her name, I'll put it here. Can't remember. But I really liked their dynamic, and I did have fun with this. And it did hook me, I will say that. It had me wanting to read instead of doing other things that I usually prioritize. And so that is where I will give this book its credit. It always had me wanting to pick it up. But again, the miscommunication drove me up the wall. I will say Blake was the standout in this book for me. Theo was the standout in this book for me. But it wasn't Theo's book. The boys were the standout in the book for me, I'll be honest. But the miscommunication, just the misconceptions. And also, I didn't, I think, emotionally really connect to them as a couple. And I'll be honest, the world did not care about it at all. It didn't hook me. I don't really remember anything about it. I didn't care, if I'm entirely honest. It was not what I was reading for. I was reading for Blake and Medra. And they drove me nuts most of the time. Or Medra drove me nuts most of the time. But once they finally got going, it was really good. And I would really recommend this one, but let me tell you this. I DNF book 2 so fast. I wanted to DNF it pretty much immediately. As soon as I picked it up, I was like, this is nowhere near as good as book 1. I don't really know what's happening here, but this really sucks in comparison. And I hate to say that because I was so excited about book 2. Something happens at the end of book 1 where I was like, oh, shit's gonna go down now, and I couldn't wait. I was so excited. It just got so much worse. Who knows? Maybe the reason I didn't like book 2 is because we got a lot more world building, we got a lot more lore, and I didn't care. It didn't hook me enough early on that I did care. And then also some stuff with certain dynamics changed, took a turn for the worse, and I just wanted to like bash my head against a wall. So I DNF'd it. I won't be continuing this series, but I really enjoyed the first book. I had a really good time with it, minus the miscommunication. But yeah, I would recommend this, and who knows, maybe you'll love book 2. Book 3 is coming out next year. So I would definitely give this a chance. I did have a really good time with it. It's just not something I'll be continuing, unfortunately. This next book, I want to throw this out there that this is a judgment-free zone. And I am hoping that that same courtesy gets thrown back to me, because this next book I am kind of embarrassed to put on the internet that I read it. Let's ignore it. I'm going to talk about it, but we are going to not acknowledge this. This one is My Best Friend's Heat by Ainsley Ellis. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's an Omegaverse romance. I rated it a 3-star. I will preface this by saying I've never read an Omegaverse romance before. If I get some of the stuff wrong, I apologize. I don't know too much about it. I'm just going based off of this because that is the only Omegaverse I've ever read. This one follows Micah and Nick. It is an MM romance, and Micah has been in love with his best friend Nick for the entirety of their friendship. There has never been a day that they have been friends when Micah wasn't head over heels for Nick. And he has accepted that friends is all they're gonna be, and he's okay with that because he loves Nick so much that he is just happy to have him in his life, and that's that. But Micah is an Omega, and he is about to go into heat. And this heat is caused by a chemical reaction to an alpha that you have been in close proximity with for a long period of time, and eventually things just kind of snap and you get sent into heat because you're just so like chemically perfect for each other. That alpha is Nick, his best friend. And so Micah is like, I am about to go into the most intense heat of my life, and I need some assistance from an alpha, and so I'm gonna go. And Nick is like, no, you're about to go into a really intense heat. I'll be there for you. I'll help you through it. They both know that a bunch of lines are gonna get crossed if they do this, but Nick can't let him go through it by himself, and he's starting to feel real possessive of Micah, and he is starting to realize, I won't let you go through this with anybody else. It needs to be me. And so they do that, and they bond during it. I liked this, but I will say this definitely wasn't a perfect book, and I think that this is the first book that I've ever really reviewed on here where there was actually flaws, like technical flaws. I will say it didn't majorly impact how I felt about this book, but it definitely took some points off because there were a lot of errors in this book. There were a few times where sentences were repeated, and so this just wasn't edited very well. And then also there were a lot of timeline issues. They're both 30, and they said that they've known each other since they were 17, but then they repeatedly say that they've been friends for 9 years. Constantly say that. They say it probably like 5 times in one chapter. It's like, oh, my best friend of 9 years. Next page, we've been best friends for 9 years. We get it. That's okay. You don't have to say it again. It's okay. We know. But honestly, I think that the biggest error with this, because I will say at the beginning of this book, I did feel their chemistry. I liked the way that they were written. I liked their dynamic. And honestly, the biggest flaw with this book is just that it wasn't longer. I think at its core, it needed a lot more editing. It needed some proofreading for sure. And then also, I think if it was fleshed out a little bit more, it would have been so much better, because we didn't really see any of them being friends before we were thrust into the thick of it. We got, I think, 1 or 2 chapters where it was building up to that, but we didn't get any of their interactions really before Micah started feeling things at a heightened rate. And so I would have liked a little bit more build up. I would have liked just a little bit more. And honestly, I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that this wasn't just smut. There were actually moments where their relationship dynamic was the focus and not the steamy moments. I liked the fact that they were trying to give you a lot more emotional stuff, but again, I think it did still need to be fleshed out a little bit more. It does still look like this book is being updated pretty frequently, so I'm thinking that the author is hearing the critiques and getting rid of the typos and things like that. So I would recommend this book, but again, there is a chance that when you read it, there will be some grammatical errors, a lot of repetition, and just some inaccuracies or some plot holes. So read this book at your own risk. I don't think it was a bad book, but I am also not a novella person. So if you are, I think you could have a really good time with this, but it's not really my bag because I tend to like a more fleshed out, slow burny relationship. And novellas never really give you that, so I can't really fault this book for that aspect of it. But again, needed a little bit more editing. But moving on. These next 4 books, I cannot wait to talk about these. I'm so excited. This one, I read something off my TBR. Who is proud of me? I am. I read 1 book off my TBR this month, and it was Unhinged by Onley James. Listen, I am filming an entire reading vlog for this series, so I'm not going to give too much about each book. I'm going to talk about them pretty well all together. This series, it all follows a family of psychopaths. There's this doctor named Thomas. His goal is he wants to right the wrongs of the world, basically, and he wants to rid the world of scum that is really powerful and that slips through the cracks and that keeps evading police and just keeps harming people. So he realizes that a really good way to do that would be with psychopaths because they don't really feel anything. How do I explain this without it sounding really horrible? He finds these kids after they have been abandoned or traumatized really badly, and they have been diagnosed as psychopaths, and they are going to slip through the cracks. He finds them, he adopts them, and he raises them as his sons, and he honestly treats them like a father, and I really, really like Thomas, I will say that. He adopts them, and he raises them to act normally in society. He raises them to be kind and to be good people, but then he also raises them to be kind of like vigilantes in a sense, and to be murderers, and to go and kill the bad people in the world. And so we get 7 books in this series, and each one follows a different son, and they're all gay, and they're so good. Let me preface this by saying each of these books are very dark. I personally don't find them very dark. The entirety of the book itself isn't super dark. There is on-page murder and torture in every single one of these books that I've read so far. But the biggest thing is that each book follows the trauma and the loss most of the time of a family member mostly in each person's life. And so you see these characters search high and low to figure out what happened to their family members or to the people close to them. And when they finally find it, most of the time the reveal is very dark. This has some really, really dark themes. It has child abuse, like sexual and physical. It has torture. It has trafficking. It has psychological, physical, mental torture, like relentless torture. It's not super prominent on page, but it is mentioned and also explored a little bit. And then the last book that I read is probably the most dark, and it has on page descriptions of suicide from a character in the MMC's life. And so these are dark. If you have any kind of triggers, please check them if you plan on checking out these books, because when I talk about these books, at its core, they're very fun romances, but there are some very dark themes in them. So please tread lightly and carefully when you read these books if you pick them up, because while they are really fun, they are also very dark at times. So please be careful if you pick them up. So the first one is Unhinged. This one follows Adam, who is one of Thomas's sons, and it also follows Noah. And Adam is a psychopath. He cannot really feel, but he meets Noah and he becomes obsessed with him. And Noah is trying to track down Adam because Adam is the one who killed Noah's father. And he finds out that his dad was actually really, really horrible. And they kind of go on a journey to figure out more about his dad and take down the people who were connected to him. And Adam is very, very obsessed. It's very fun. It is very dark at times, and Noah has a lot of trauma that is talked about and it's very lighthearted for most of the book because Adam is very obsessed and it is really adorable, but there are also darker moments. So again, I rated this one 4.5. I'm not going to talk about it too deeply. I'm doing a whole vlog, but it was very fun. I had a really good time with it. I didn't feel really when I read it, but I had a really fun time with it. And then the next one was Psycho. I loved this one. It was my favorite. I also rated it 4.5. And this one follows August, and I loved August. He is another one of Thomas's sons, and it also follows Lucas. And Lucas is an ex-FBI agent, and he's also clairvoyant. And he is disgraced FBI agent, though, because he outed himself as clairvoyant, and he was then fired because he tried to get somebody else that he worked with in trouble because they were a horrible, horrible person. So Lucas collides with August at their new job. They both teach at a university and sees August torturing people in his, connection. It goes from there. August is very obsessed with Lucas. It is adorable. The one thing I loved about this so much is that August is so clueless and so adorably so. He reads a lot of relationship manuals and he does a lot of research because he doesn't know how to navigate relationships. And I will say they were my least favorite couple of the books so far, but August is my favorite MMC. I liked this one a lot. But again, very dark. This one centers mainly on abuse against women and trafficking and also torture. And it's not super prominent, but you get flashes, and some of those flashes are kind of detailed. So again, tread carefully. The next one was Moonstruck. This one I rated 3.75, and this one follows Jericho and Atticus, and Jericho is also a serial killer. He kind of starts like a neighborhood watch, and him and Atticus meet because they are going to murder the same person. And Atticus never really liked being a murderer. He doesn't really fit in with his family in that sense. Like, they all love killing people. Atticus does not. And so he doesn't really fit in there, whereas Jericho is not a psychopath. Atticus is, but he also kind of likes killing people. So Jericho just kind of takes the reins for Atticus, and it's really, really good. Jericho has a mystery that he's trying to solve with how his sister died and disappeared, and so Atticus has a lot of resources and they help each other, and it is very, very good. This one I rated a 3.75 because I was bored for a decent chunk of the beginning of the book, but then we got to see a big shift in their relationship, in the way that Jericho saw Atticus. I loved Atticus. I liked him more at the end than I did at the beginning, and I just really liked seeing his growth. So the ending of this one really, really worked for me, but the beginning didn't really hook me as much as I wanted it to. This one has a lot of bad in it. It has kidnapping, trafficking, and then mental, physical, and psychological torture. So again, very dark at times. Tread carefully. The next one was Headcase, and I will say with this one had probably one of the darkest scenes in it out of all of the books. So again, tread carefully. This one I rated a 3.5. It was my least favorite, unfortunately, which sucked because it followed one of the brothers that I was most excited about. Asa, I want to say. Asa. It's spelled A-S-A, so I'm going to say Asa. He's a twin. This one followed Asa and Zane, and Zane is a wannabe journalist. He has tried to make it and never really gotten his big break, but he is obsessed with Thomas's family. He thinks that there's something going on there because each of the husbands of his sons so far have had really traumatic pasts. They've all had somebody close to them disappear or die, or just something weird happen there. So he thinks Thomas is this criminal mastermind. I think he's doing something horrible. So let me go to this fundraiser, let me try and track down Thomas, and instead he sees Asa. And they flirt with each other, they connect, and Asa becomes obsessed and kidnaps him, and then is like, I can't let you go because I told you that my family's serial killers, so you're stuck with me now. I was most excited for Asa because I loved his dynamic with his twin Avi, but we didn't get any of their relationship. We talked about it, but we didn't see any of their interactions the entire book, and it was absolutely criminal. I was just so sad about that. I did like them as a couple, but they didn't really hit for me. And while I did really like Asa, it was all surface level stuff. It was just like, you're an attractive man. But this didn't make me feel anything really. So it was a good book, but it was my least favorite of the series. But again, this is the darkest one, at least in my opinion so far. So this one heavily talks about suicide. If that is an issue or a trigger for you, do not read this book. It is very prominent. It is talked about extremely frequently. Do not read it. This series as a whole, at least in my opinion, I feel like it's very fun because the MMCs are so obsessed and they're so clueless. And at its core, it's just a lot of people who are in dire need of love, and they find it from people who aren't supposed to love or aren't supposed to know how to love and just don't really know how, but they give it in the only way that they can, which is just like complete obsession and devotion, and just, I'd burn the world down for you. I would conquer the world for you. I would bring you anything that your heart could ever desire. And they care so deeply without realizing that they're caring so deeply. And it is really, really wonderful to read just these men be so gone for their guys. And I love it. It's really, really fun. But like I said, it has some very dark themes. So if you pick these up, please be careful. Please check your triggers. I don't find it super dark. I think if you have some triggers, you would probably be fine. But if there's anything that you are really like, no, I can't read that, I would really recommend checking them, because like I said, there are things in here that do get very dark. And so just protect your peace. But yeah, that is all for this month. I am a little bit disappointed in myself that I only read one book for my TBR, but I think all in all, I'm pretty happy with how it went. I got back into MM, which I love. I feel like I haven't read any in a while. I know that I have, but I haven't really gotten in to MM books for a while, and I did finally. Feels like I'm home. But I had a really good time this month. I found a lot of books that I really, really loved. Haven't had a 5-star, but I had a 4.75 star. Had a couple 4.5 stars, so that was really nice. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that you found a book that you were excited to read. Let me know down below what you read in September. If there was anything that you really loved, if there was anything that you really hated, I would love to hear a rant. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you staying till the end if you have, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, my lovelies.